I think that's the most competitive and highest standard that we've had in the sport. I don't believe the standard now is as high. And now you've got one guy that's pretty a clear winner. Then there was, there was 5, 6, 7 guys that could interchange on any given day, depending on, who came in condition, who didn't. I had Sean Ray was second to me twice. NASA was second to me once. Kevin was second to me, and Flex. So there was always, change around in the numbers there. And the depth of the competitors and the quality, I think that was a peak probably from early 90s to early 2000s was, I think, the peak of the physique and the standard of the physiques in bodybuilding. There was a big group, not only physiques, personalities in the sport. There was a lot of people there with interesting personalities, with charisma, and Sean had his fans, and I had my fans, and Flex had his, and Kevin, and so on. So there was a depth not of just quality physiques, but personalities as well that were interesting, I think, for the fans. Well, I decided to do that from day one, really. It's bodybuilding, and of course you have to be in condition, and I was always very meticulous about coming into contest in condition. You have to have a good structure and proportions, which your training can influence that somewhat, but mostly that's genetic. So what is it that separates the guy from first and second? I'm just observing the history of bodybuilding. As I came into it, Arnold was the Mr. Olympia, who was a great champion. Why? Well, why was Arnold better than everyone else? Simply he was bigger. You could argue that perhaps Frank Zane had a better proportions and a nicer shape or whatever, but Arnold was just bigger. Why was Lee Haney 8 times Mr. Olympia? When I came into the sport, I started training in '83. Lee Haney's first Olympia was '84. So my whole journey from being, going to my first competition and so on, Lee Haney was Mr. Olympia throughout all that period. And Lee Haney had a great physique, of course, small waist and hips and wide shoulders, good structure. But again, he was bigger than everybody else. And you could argue, perhaps, Lee Labrada had a better structure and better proportions than Lee Haney, because Lee's hamstrings and calves were quite weak, where Lee Labrada didn't really have any weak points. But he just got crushed with Lee Haney being a bigger man. So it's bodybuilding. So to a degree, it is about muscle size. So it was always my goal to come into the contest as big as possible, but I was often called a mass monster and everything like that. I could have come into the contest bigger than I did, but I was obsessed about having the size of a big heavyweight combined with the conditioning of a smaller, lighter bodybuilder, and I think that's what I brought to the competition. At least that's what I tried to bring, and most of the times was successful. So actually, when I was getting ready for a competition, being as big as possible was not on my mind. It was being as ripped as possible, and I was learning all the time. '92, when I won the first Mr. Olympia, because I was quite meticulous and I took photos every week and I took measurements and weights and everything like that, I could see that I was really pretty much in contest shape about 6 weeks out from the '92 Olympia. But I kept dieting down and down and down because I wanted to be super ripped, and I was conscious at that point Lee Haney was not competing. So I would be able to beat the other guys, Sean Ray, Vince Taylor, and so on size, even if I lost a bit of size. So I sacrificed size in '92 to bring in super condition. And what I realized looking back is, hey, I just sacrificed a lot of muscle coming in. So if I don't do that next year, I can come in much bigger. So everybody thinks, everyone asking me what's the secret chemicals I took in '93, or what's the secret. I didn't do anything different than I did from the year before, apart from I didn't cannibalize my muscle tissue and diet down too much. So I was able to come in actually, I think, 16 or 17 pounds heavier. So never in the history of bodybuilding has a Mr. Olympia, or a guy that's already winning the Mr. Olympia, come in the next year with such a massive improvement. So it was a huge shock for everybody, and that was the kind of reaction I got. But the truth of it is, I didn't really do anything different apart from learning that lesson and not over dieting. Although I still did it to a degree, because everyone that sees the black and white pictures that were taken 6 weeks before '93 is kind of like, you should have come in like that. That's kind of the condition the guys come in these days. So if I was looking for that, I would have probably been another 15 pounds heavier. So yeah, I was a mass monster, and for me, as long as you're proportionate and you're in condition, it's bodybuilding, you know, so bigger muscles are better. Yeah, I mean, Ronnie took it to another level with the size, and Ronnie, like myself, we trained differently, but the thing in common is we both trained really hard and very heavy, and that gives your physique a certain look, as opposed to somebody that trains with more volume and probably lighter weights and so on. And they don't have that kind of hard density to the muscle. Everyone used to call it grainy, you know, when I was in condition, say the grainy condition. That's like super low body fat combined with very dense muscles that you get from consistently lifting heavy weights. And Ronnie came from a powerlifting background, so he's actually even stronger than me. He's probably the strongest competitive bodybuilder that I know all around. So yeah, Ronnie, you know, this happens a lot in sports. I think it was an English guy, Roger Bannister, that was the first person to run a mile under 4 minutes. Before that, there was a barrier, like nobody could get under 4 minutes. So this one guy runs under 4 minutes. Now everybody starts doing it, because now it's psychologically it's achievable. Once somebody's already done it, then it becomes easier in your mind to achieve, and everything starts up here. If you don't believe you can do it, then you won't do it. So you have to have that belief. And if somebody's already done, you know, this step, you think, well, he's done there, so maybe I can go even further. So that's, you know, Lee Haney was the biggest Mr. Olympia before me, competed like 240, 245. And I saw that, and I saw that that was achievable, and maybe I can achieve more than that. And probably that's what happened to Ronnie. I don't know, you have to ask him.